This is an official unboxing of the APS Conception Striker 12. Now, as we get into this box, there are two main things that I do want to mention. The first of which is this is not an official review. I have asked you guys in a poll to see what you think preemptively. I'm also going to make the first video on this and see if you guys like it. This is just the unboxing and first look. I don't know if I want to do it all in one video or if I want to do it in an unboxing video and then keep the review separate, with like a minor unboxing in it as well. So you guys let me know what you think. It kind of just gives me more content. It also allows you to check out my first opinions of it and not after I've diddled with it a little bit. This is the APS Striker 12, and I do want to say that when we do get into this box, this is not the first time I've handled one of these. I actually had one when it was the Orange War Games Striker 12, which was, if I'm not mistaken, a gel launcher. Or a gel shotty, and that particular variant wound up coming off the market because they stopped making them, and then I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, APS started making them again. So I think it's a little bit different, and I'll explain that as we go. Picked this up myself, so this is not a sponsored video, and you will notice on the side it says the 12 Mark III, so I'm assuming this is the third variant of the Street Sweeper. Now the box does feature a nice handle, and it opens up like a suitcase almost, so it's nice. You can actually keep it in here if you want to. It's a nice box for storage. It's not just like a crummy box, so I appreciate that. And there is the Striker 12. It's kind of like half hidden by some foam. I would say, honestly, it's stored in here super well, so that's nice to see. And we'll take a first look before we pull it on out of the box. I might take this foam cutout, I might get myself a case and see if there's a way I could put this cutout inside the case, because that's perfect. Pop it on out of the box. Oh, it's got some good weight to it. Picking this thing up in my hands for the first time, I will say there are a few things that I noticed already that are a little bit different. It's definitely a different construction. I think the plastic is a different material. It's just been a long time since I sold that one off from Orange War Games. The APS, we'll get to the comparison towards the end. A little quick nonsense history. From what I understand, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, don't quote me on this, the Striker 12 or Street Sweeper, the original variants of it were deemed completely illegal in almost all states, and a lot of that had to do with just it being a gang style shotgun or like a mob style shotgun. They just, for some reason, they banned it, obviously, as they did with everything else. What happened was, when they did, they confiscated a ton of them, and I believe they chopped them in half. So even if they were ever made legal again, most of the time you're buying one that is just cut into two, and people have to weld them back together. I don't know what the legality is behind them now. They might be okay in some states, but I believe even if they are, they may have to be like deactivated. Don't quote me on any of this. I'm just going based off of my old memory. Maybe somebody can shed some more light in the comments section below. So just the externals, taking a look, a very large mix between metal and plastic. For your metal parts, it's everything except for your grip is plastic, the trigger is plastic, trigger guard, which is molded into the grip, and the I guess rear of the receiver. Stock is also plastic, the front grip is plastic, the dial on the front of the drum is plastic, and then the charging handle on the right side is also plastic. It's not actually a charging handle. This is what ejects your rounds. I'll explain that in a second, because it's a little different from the real steel variant. Everything else is metal, from the stock, the drum, the outer barrel, the inner barrel, and the muzzle protector, as well as this big, chunky iron sight up in the front. Now these are not M-LOK, I'm sorry. These are actually, like on the real steel variant, I believe just to keep the barrel cool, so that's not going to do anything for you. The entire thing is rock solid. There is no rattling on the inside, even with the drum being spring loaded and spring tensioned. I'll show you that in a second. Even the stock is pretty dang solid. It's a little wobbly right to left, and then you would expect that this to rattle up and down, but I guess the spring on the inside is strong enough to not cause that. This is the folded variant of it. If you want to pull the stock out, obviously it does have some spring tension initially. You'll press this button on the back and it will release almost immediately. Such a satisfying sound. And then you should just be able to pull this and drop it, and the stock will drop in place on the extended position. extended. There's no flex inwards because of this bar and this support in the back. There's very little movement up and down. And then keep in mind the buttstock, you won't feel it when it's pressed up against your shoulder, but it is loose. It's just held in by a spring. We do feature 2 sling mounts. The first one is on the left side of the barrel, and then the second one is on the left side of the stock. This one, a little bit more flimsy, kind of worrisome to me, but it should be okay. This one's not going to come off. This one is clearly welded on. Get into the trigger, the safety is just behind it. If you pull the safety, the trigger just doesn't go anywhere. Push it back out towards the left side, and the trigger is a very heavy, very lengthy pull, and that's because it has to release and the entire drum, which is spring tension. So I'll get to that now. It's super cool. The entire thing works off of like a spring tension like winding system. So you're going to twist the drum to wind it up, and this is reminiscent of the real steel, where you twist it up. And now every time you pull the trigger, it's going to release the firing pin, fire off your APS CO2 shell, and then when you release the trigger, it should finish the rotation of the drum. So let's see what that feels like. There's nothing inside of the chamber right now. That is the pin releasing onto the shell. I forgot how good that feels. The entire drum is heavy enough to cause the street sweeper to jerk a little bit, and it just feels so cool. Ready? I'll hold it kind of like loose. That's so nice. That is so cool. Okay, the trigger pull, I mean, it's a shotgun, so it's very short to break. Oh, you can really speed that up. There's so much extra room there. You don't need to. That's so cool. And then obviously at some point it's going to completely unwind itself and you'll have to rewind it again. For the shells go in through this little loading port. Let me pull this guy back. There's a little loading port back here, like a window. And what you'll do is you'll put your shell in, you'll twist it, put another shell in, you'll twist it, drop another shell in, and so on and so forth. Now, the only thing that's different from the real steel variation to this one is the way that the shells eject. From what I understand, as you fire the shells, this guy is supposed to retract and eject the used shells, I believe. That's not the case here. So after you use all of the shells, you're going to have to go through and eject one, and you can see that rod just pushes straight back out the side. That's a metal rod, so that's nice. That's gonna be nice and strong. But yeah, so it's not exactly something that you can load with very much speed. You're lacking in speed, you're gaining in awesomeness. It also seems like there is a small, like, I guess, click or some sort of, yeah, you can see that little, I guess, bearing there, that when you push it, it releases from that hole, and then it'll lock itself down into that hole. So it's not just a loose window, it's got some tension to it, so it's not just going to move on you, which is super, super nice. On the side, it says, warning, safety must be on during loading and unloading. Read user's manual available for manufacturer prior to operating this toy. And we'll take a look at the sights now. So again, you're really limited to the front sight, that very large front sight, and then this small, I guess, chunk that's taken out of the rear sight. There are, and it looks like it's already pre-drilled for it, there is a Street Sweeper or Striker 12 specific sight. I don't think APS makes one, but you can purchase them. I would love to get my hands on one and throw it onto this bad boy. That would be absolutely awesome. So I think I'm going to try and do that maybe either for the review, or if not for the review, then for a completely. So now two things, or not two things, a couple of things that I do want to address. The difference between this and the original Orange War Games Striker 12. So the Orange War Games was originally, I'll try and throw a picture up on the screen, orange plastic and an orange front end. And then the outside of the metal wasn't as shiny. It was more of like a matte metal material, or like a matte painted or coated aluminum material. So that was cool. That was interesting. This one's a little bit more shiny and glossy. The plastic doesn't feel cheaper, but it looks cheaper. It has like that shiny plastic feel. I believe the plastic on the Orange War Games Street Sweeper or Striker 12 was like more dull, if I'm not mistaken. Another thing that I noticed on this one, as opposed to the Orange War Games, and I think that's huge with this one, is the inside of the drum on the Orange War Games Striker was orange and plastic. It was like a printed giant block of plastic. This one, from the looks of it, is actually some sort of metal or aluminum, the inside of the drum, so that's really cool. You're going to wind up adding a little bit more weight to that movement. Hopefully that doesn't affect the longevity of the mechanism on the inside, but if I remember correctly, and if it's anything similar, it's probably an extremely simple system, so you shouldn't have problems long-term with that. Now, I don't know, because a lot of those Orange War Games ones were actually converted to use the Airsoft shells. They weren't originally designed that way. They just either fit or they were converted, like I said, and then painted black and stuff, some of them. I spent a pretty penny on it from Octagon Airsoft, and I ordered it in, and I think after shipping it was somewhere around like $600. I spent maybe, I think like $280 or $300 on this thing, and it came from Evic, so that's a huge plus. It's actually higher quality, it feels like so far, and it was like drastically cheaper, and it's awesome that they're available now. But another thing, I don't know if Orange War Games made them or if a different company was making them, but there were two types of inner barrels that you could buy, like this thick barrel, because it's not really technically an inner barrel, it's just a barrel that lines up on the inside of the Street Sweeper with the ports on the shells. You could either get the APS variant or the PPS variant. Now, the PPS shells are these small CO2 shells that either line 3 to 6 small, like in a straight line BBs, and they're CO2 powered. Or the APS, which is what this is modeled after, which is just a giant open bore, and that will allow you to fire like a wad with 25 rounds with these like plastic covers, and I'll show you those when they do come in, because I don't have any APS shells on me at the moment, unfortunately. They're on the way. I had problems with the PPS shells. I don't really know why you'd want to use them, because the amount of rounds that you're firing are so much slimmer. I guess this would be a good way to test out my mic. There's a giant cement mixer pulling into my community right now, and it's super loud. But the PPS shells, I was having a problem where every time when I'd pull the trigger, the barrel's rotation wasn't quick enough to line up with the small hole in the inner barrel, and it was literally firing the shells on the inside of the drum. The APS shell, or inner barrel, is perfect for both the APS and the PPS, at least when I use the Orange War Games one, because that big open barrel with the giant open hole, it allowed for all of the rounds to fire through it, regardless of what shells you're using. But I suggest go with the APS ones. You'll just have more rounds, it's more shotgun-like. It's like a little grenade launcher. I think that's all I got today. We're going to throw this back in the box and get it ready for when the shells come, and for when I am, that's this way, ready to do the whole review and overview and thoughts and all that great stuff. Again, let me know in the comments if you'd like something more simple like this before the reviews. Again, we're still going to check it out. I'll show you all of its features in the review. This is just, the reviews, like the full replica reviews, will be exactly the same. It's just that if I do it like this, you're just going to get an extra video where I unbox it, take a first look, share some opinions, some plans, and all that good stuff. So, yeah, like I said, let me know. I sometimes, again, you know, it's very, I'm going to throw these inside the box now too, just because I'm going to need them. They don't come with it. It's very nostalgic to me. I mean, I grew up on unboxings. I loved watching Airsoft unboxings. So maybe it's the, you know, just that like simple content that I would like to make for you guys before we go into something more in-depth and a little bit more cinematic, and I put all this time and effort into the video. It's just a little bit more homey and relaxing, and it's a reason to make some more content and showcase some cool replicas on screen just a few more times. Thanks for hanging out. I'll catch you on the full review. Peace.